Hi, welcome back to the class. Now in the last class we tried to convert the AC signals to a DC signals, and the circuit that we used was of a single diode connected in series with the load RL, and this entire setup was connected to a normal transformer of some AC signals, and we noted the V out across the load RL, and we also tried to calculate the efficiency of the circuit. And the efficiency that was found was just a 40% of the input AC signal that we supply. And we also looked at the ripple factor, and that was also very large. That was coming off just 1.21. Okay, that was a very large value of the ripples present in this rectified output. So the main disadvantage of this circuit, what we saw was, the ripples. The ripples were in a very large number, that is the AC component present in that rectified output was in the very large number, you can say. Now the second thing was about the output, DC output power. Since we just saw that the efficiency was 40%, what it means is that it used to just convert the positive half cycle of the input AC signal to an DC output, whereas the negative half cycle was not taken up by the circuit. Okay, so that reduced the DC output power, or else I can say the DC output power was just the half of the AC input power that was coming from the main supply. So that was a big disadvantage. Now to overcome this disadvantage, now in today's class we are going to connect the same AC signals, okay, to a full wave rectifier circuits. So let's get started with the center tap full wave rectifier circuit. Now these are my input AC signals that I'll be giving to my full wave rectifier circuit, and we are interested in getting the DC output. So to achieve this, what I'll do is that I'll be making a use of two diodes, and I'll connect them in such a way that one diode conducts during the positive half cycle of this input AC voltage, where the other diode will start conducting once the polarity gets changed, that is in the negative half cycle of this AC signals. So to get that, what we require is the center tap transformer. So let me take a center tap transformer here. So this is my transformer, wherein this is my AC signals, AC supply I can say, coming from the main power line. And this is the core of the transformer. Then we have a secondary winding. And I said I'll be making a use of two diodes. So let this be D1. There be D1, diode D1. And let's take one more diode. So this is my diode D2. Diode D2. So let me name it. So this is my diode D2. So this is my P side. This is my N side of this diode. Same way here. So this is P, N, and this is my D1. So here that's a main power supply, and then let this be the secondary winding. So this is a secondary winding of the transformer. So let me name it as A and B. And we're going to connect our load from the middle of this transformer to this point. So let me connect the load RL. So this is my load RL that is connected to the neutral point of this center tap transformer. Okay, so this is my load RL, and the point where you see the connection of this load RL to this is called as a neutral point of a center tap transformer. Now how this center tap transformer works? Okay, now suppose if you are supplying a 2 VM is the voltage coming from the main power supply. So we see a neutral point exactly at the middle of the secondary winding. So what it will do is that, okay, so the voltage available at the secondary winding is suppose twice the VM. okay, twice the Vm. So in that case, what will this transformer do is that it will distribute the voltage to the upper section of the circuit, and the next half voltage will be supplied to this lower section of the circuit. Now, if you look at this full wave rectifier circuit, you can say it's a combination of two half wave rectifier circuits. Okay, so this will be sharing some voltage Vm, okay, because of the center tap, and this next, the bottom section of the circuit will have some voltage Vm. So what you will find is that when you make a use of the center tap transformer, is that the input, okay, that you are giving, this is at the primary, and suppose the same input is available at the secondary, okay, but since we are doing the center tapping at the secondary winding, you will find that the voltage is getting distributed, okay, exactly the half the voltage available at the secondary winding. Okay, so that's the advantage of the center tap transformer. We can distribute the voltage. Now let's see the working of this. Now at the terminal A and the B, okay, we are having the AC input supply. So let's focus on the first positive half cycle. So this positive half cycle, what will happen to this? So during the first positive half cycle of the AC input voltage, we will have the terminal A of a secondary winding will have a positive polarity, whereas the terminal B will have a negative polarity. That's during the first positive half cycle. And since this is a neutral point, okay, so what I can do is that there is a voltage available in this section, so positive and the negative, and the other side of this coiling will have a positive over here, and then again there is a one more voltage available in the secondary section. Yes, so what will happen is that if you see this is a positive terminal and the diode D1 is in P. So if you see this positive is connected to the P side of the diode will be in a forward bias. So what I can say is that this diode is in forward biased mode. Correct? So when it's in the forward biased mode, you will find a current, okay, in this direction. So there will be a current in this upper section of this full wave rectifier. So this current will be passing through this load RL, and if you see the direction of this, it will be like this. Yes, so the direction of the current is in this direction. Yeah, so this is for the Vm. Let's take it out. Yes, so this is how the current will be in this upper section. Now at the same time, if you trace it, the lower section of this full wave rectifier, so my negative terminal, negative polarity is connected to the P side. That means the electron will be attracted by this negative polarity inside this diode. So thereby I can say this diode D2 will be in the reversed biased mode. So the diode D2 will be in the reversed biased mode. So what you will find is that during the positive half cycle, okay, so the current is flowing in this load RL when the diode D1 is on. Yes, so what I can draw at the output is that we are going to get a waveform, okay, in the upper section like this. Yes, because we are able to see the current flowing in this upper section. So what I can say, this is during the diode, when diode D is on. Okay, I can write the diode D1 is on in this case. When you see the positive half cycle has been getting rectified, okay, the diode D1 is in the on state. Now let's go for the negative half cycle of this input AC voltage. So when the polarity gets changed, okay, so here what will happen is that this positive will get changed to a negative. Okay, positive will get changed to a negative. So let me write it. So this is my negative, and then again this B will get changed from negative to positive, and at this neutral point also you will find that there is change in the polarity. Now my terminal A of the secondary winding is with negative polarity, and the terminal B of my secondary winding is with my positive polarity. So now this negative and P, okay, again there will be attraction of the electron, so the barrier width will increase, so the diode D1 will be in the reversed biased will be in the reversed biased mode, whereas the diode D2 positive and P side will be now in my forward biased. So this is going to be in the forward biased mode. Yes, and if you now trace the current direction, okay, so here now the current direction, what you will see is in the top section, since the diode is in the reverse bias mode, you won't find any current flowing in this branch. Alright, whereas the diode D2 is in a forward bias, now you will see a current flowing in this lower section of this full wave rectifier. So this is the direction of the current from P to N. So I'll see the current flowing in this direction. Okay, yeah, so that's the direction of the current. Now we have got the rectification of this negative half cycle, okay, and that is done by this diode D2. So when you will be tracing the V out, we are plotting this V out output waveform across this load RL, right? So we are plotting this V out across this load RL. So when there is a flow of the current in this load RL, okay, we will definitely get a V output across this load RL. So again, there is a current flowing in this load RL. Yes, so what I'll get is that again the negative half cycle will be getting rectified at the output. Okay, so this is here in this case diode D2 is in the on mode, whereas diode D1 is in the off mode, and this rectification of this negative half cycle is done by this diode D2. Now in the previous case, when the diode D1 was on in the on state, okay, we had a current in the same direction as of what we see in the case 2, that is in the negative half cycle, right? So if you look at the direction of this when the diode D1 was in the conducting mode, yes, we saw the current flowing in this direction, right? So this was the direction for the upper section for the positive half cycle, and when we went for the negative half cycle, again the diode D2 started conducting and the current started flowing in this load RL. Now if you see the direction of the current for both the cycles of this AC input voltage, you will find that both the directions are in the same direction. And even you can also make a note of this looking at this output waveform also. If you see this DC waveforms, pulsating DC, what you are getting at the output, okay, are in the same directions, right, at the positive scale. So what I can say is that we have achieved in getting the full wave rectified. Okay, so we have got the entire wave is being rectified at the output, you can say. So we are getting a pulsating DC. So these are my pulsating DC. Okay, and so we have rectified this, both the cycles of the full wave rectifier. Now we have rectified both the cycles of a input AC signal. Now there are some disadvantage. So we have achieved this, and even if we connect at the output across this load RL some filter circuits and some voltage regulator, we can get a perfectly DC, a pure DC line at the output. But before going for that, let's see the disadvantages of this full wave rectifier. Now if I want to run this circuit in my lab, the first question is, what diode should I use? Or else what should be the PIV rating of the diode? That is very important. Now the PIV is basically a peak inverse voltage, or else in simple words, it's the maximum voltage that this diode can bear during the reverse bias mode. Okay, now here what we have seen is that for both the half cycles, okay, each of this diode gets conduct, and the voltage will be just exactly the half. Whatever the voltage is available at the secondary winding, suppose 2 Vm is the voltage available at the secondary winding. Suppose this is my 2 Vm is the voltage available at the secondary winding. Now the same 2 Vm is being getting distributed in the form of, this will have my Vm and the lower section will have my Vm. And for each Vm, this diode gets conduct, right, for the half the voltage available. Now when we look at in terms of a peak inverse voltage, okay, so let me take the same example of the negative half cycle. Suppose we are in a negative half cycle and the A is negative, B is positive, diode D2 is in forward biased, and the current will start flowing in this load RL. and this diode D1 is in the reversed bias. So let's calculate what will be the PIV rating of the diode that we should take. Okay, now here this is negative and positive. So I'm having my VM at this upper section of my circuit. So here I'll get it my VM. So negative polarity, let me draw it here like this. This is my negative, and yeah, so this is my negative, this is my positive. That's coming from this upper section from point A to the point of the neutral, that is negative and positive, that is across this diode. So I can write that's a VM available. Now at the same time, from the lower section also there will be an voltage in addition to this. So here there's a VM negative and positive. So the voltage available in the lower section will be also available for the reverse biasing of this diode D1. That is, I can show it like this, negative and positive. So one more VM, and this negative positive, if you see, that will give me a twice the VM. If I just add these two batteries, if I add it, so what I'll get is a twice the magnitude, right? So, or else if I want to show it, what it will be looking like is like this. So you have a diode, this is my diode D1, okay, and it is something like this, negative positive. So this negative positive VM is coming from this upper section, whereas the lower section, the diode D2 is conducting, and that is in series with this voltage, lower section voltage. So that will be negative positive, and this is what. So my diode D1 is in a reversed bias mode, and the PIV, okay, the PIV is of twice the VM. So when I want to run this setup, you see that the diode what you are taking is of twice the VM, okay, and not the VM what you are supplying from this upper section of this secondary winding. You see that you are making a use of a twice the VM. It should be twice this what input you are giving to this diode D1 and the diode D2. Now the disadvantages of this full wave rectifier circuit is that the very first disadvantage is that the PIV rating. Okay, so if you see, the PIV rating is twice the VM. Now increase in the PIV rating will increase the cost of your setup. Okay, so that's the big disadvantage. The second disadvantage is that we are making a use of the center tap transformer in this case, and when you make a use of such transformer, it's always difficult to locate a center tap or else a neutral point on the secondary winding. So that's the difficult task. And the third point is the important point, I can say, the output voltage, you know, the DC output voltage, what you will get is just exactly the half of the input voltage that is available at this secondary winding. I said we are using a center tap, so if secondary winding is giving me a twice the VM voltage, for example, suppose 40 volts, so this is my 40 volts is available at this. So 40 volts will be getting divided into 20 volts, and this lower section will have a 20 volts, right? So at the output, okay, when you will be tracing the output across this load RL, okay, you will find that it's just a half, that's a 20 volt of what you have available at the secondary winding. So these are the disadvantages of a full wave rectifier, center tap full wave rectifier circuit. Now what's next? So we want to improve, or else we want to overcome the disadvantages that are offered by, you know, this center tap full wave rectifier circuits. And to overcome this disadvantages, we have something called as a bridge wave rectifier. Now in this full wave bridge rectifier, I'll be making a use of a normal transformer and not the center tap transformer, because when you make a use of a center tap transformer, you see that, you know, the voltage that is available at the secondary winding is just exactly the half, or else just because of the center tapping done on the secondary winding, the voltage is getting distributed. And when you will run any circuit connected to the secondary winding of such transformer, you will see that the output voltage you are going to get is just the half of the input that is available at the secondary winding. So for this bridge rectifier, I'll try to make a use of a normal transformer. So let me take a normal transformer. So this is my transformer that is connected to some AC supply, and let this be the core, and this is my secondary winding. Secondary winding. So let me name this as secondary winding. So let me put it a name. So this is my A, and let this be the B. Okay. So now here I'll be making a use of the 4 diodes. So 2 diodes are being added. So and I'll try to connect this diode, okay, in a such a way that they form a bridge network. So let me draw the diodes. Let me put up a diodes in the circuits. So this is my 1 diode. Okay. So yeah. So let me connect. Let me show the wires first. So here. Okay, so that will be coming here. So it will basically form a bridge network. So here, and then this and this. Okay, so I said I'll be using a 4 diodes. So let me show it. So this is my first diode. So this is, I'll call it as my diode D1. Let this be a diode D3. This is my diode D3. And then one more 2 diodes. So let this be the diode D2. So this is my diode D2, and one more diode. So this is my diode, 4th one. Okay, so you see a bridge network. So the 4 diodes are forming a bridge network like this. And now suppose if you want to give any AC signals for the rectification, so what you will do is that you are going to connect it to the 2 opposite ends of this diagonal. Okay, so I'll be connecting this AC signals to this diagonal of this bridge. Alright, so I have connected my AC signals. I'm giving at these 2 points the diagonal of this bridge, whereas the other 2 points of this bridge network, I'll be connecting a load RL. So let me connect a load RL at this point. So this is my load RL, where I'm going to measure my V output. So this is my load RL. So the V out, what I'll be measuring is across this load RL. So let me put up the V out over here. So this is my V out graph. So this is my AC signal that I'll be giving at this point. So let me name the points. So here I have named A and B. So let me go with the P and Q. So let me call this P and Q. So we are going to measure our V output at this point. Okay, so this is a setup of a full wave bridge rectifier circuit. And now let's go for the working of this. Now let's focus on the positive half cycle that we are giving to this bridge network. So we are looking in this positive cycle. So this is my positive half cycle. So during the first positive half cycle, that is from 0 to pi, what you will find is that the A will be at the positive polarity and the B will be at the negative polarity. Yes? Now let me write this for the first positive half cycle. Okay, so here this is my P side. This is my P side of the diode D1. Okay, and this is my N side. All right, same way, this is my N, this is my P. So this is my N, this is my P. Again, this is N and P. Now if you see the polarity, positive is connected to the P side of this diode D1. When this positive is connected to the P side, that means the diode is in an on state. So what I can write is that diode D1 is in on state. All right. Whereas the same point, this is a common point for both diode and D4. The same voltage, the positive polarity, is connected to the N side. That means the diode D4 is in a reversed biased. So what I can do is that I can write it as diode D4 is in off state. When it's in a reverse bias mode, it is in an off state. So this is in an off state. Same way, let me check for the diode D2 and D3. So this is my negative polarity that is being connected. Again, this is point of negative polarity This negative polarity, again, it's shared by diode D2 and D3. So when I am having a negative polarity at this point, so the negative is connected to the P, that means the diode D2 is in a reversed bias mode. So again, I can write diode D2 is in a reversed bias mode, that means it is in an off mode. Whereas the diode D3 is connected to the negative polarity, is connected to the N side of this. So what I can say, diode D3 is in the on state. Alright. Now if you see the current direction, now here out of this 4 diodes, for the first positive half cycle, the 2 diodes are conducting, that is your diode D1 and D3 is in on state, whereas the other 2 diodes are in the off state, that is diode D2 and D4. Right? Now if you see the current direction, let me trace the current now. Now here the diode D1 is flowing. The diode D1 is flowing in the circuit. So that means the diode D1 will conduct. So can I show an arrow like this? Yes. So there will be current that will be passing through this. Okay. Then like this. And then across this diode D1 will be passing because it's conducting. And then it will be reaching this point P. After point P, this diode D2 is in an off state. That means I can take out this diode D2. So the current direction will be across this load RL. Yes, it is passing from this point till P. From P it is passing to the load RL. Then at the point Q, and from point Q again the diode D3 is in an on state. So it will conduct the current. So what I'll see is that the diode D3 conducts. So there will be current flowing again this point. So here you will find the current is in this direction. Alright. Or else if I want to write the current direction, so let me write it. So it's coming from A. It's coming from A, then it is passing through the diode D1. Okay, so then it is passing through the diode D1. Then at the point P, afterwards it will pass to the load RL. From load RL it is going to the point Q. And from point Q it will pass to the diode D3 and back to the point terminal B of the secondary winding. So this is the current direction if you want to check it. Okay, so we are done with the positive half cycle. Now what's for the negative half cycle? Now for the negative half cycle, let's see for the negative half cycle. Negative half cycle, yes. So when the negative half cycle, you will find that there is a change in the polarity. So this is positive, will turn it to negative, and negative will turn to the positive. For the negative half cycle, we are focusing in the negative half cycle. Now for the first positive half cycle, you saw a current flowing in this load RL. Okay, so if I want to plot, if I want to trace the output voltage across this load RL, so what I can just draw is the same as the input waveform. Okay, yes, this time also we are getting the positive half cycle is being getting rectified. So here I can say, so who is doing this? Diode D1 and diode D3. So this is just because of diode D1 and D3, because both are in a conducting mode, on, and this is also on. Now for the negative half cycle, the polarity changes. When the polarity changes, okay, so let's trace the current direction. Let's trace the current direction. Okay. Now let me keep the current direction for RL same, okay, because that we got for the positive half cycle. Now let's see whether we are getting the same direction when we are operated in the negative half cycle. So for the negative and positive, let's try to trace it. Negative terminal is available at this point. So this negative is connected to the P. Negative and P means it's going to reversed biased. So I can say diode D1 will be in a reversed biased. So diode D1 in this case in a reversed bias, so it will be in the off mode. Okay, negative is connected to P. Diode D4, when you see negative is connected to the N side, that means it will repel the electrons inside this diode, so you will get a forward biasing of that. So the diode D4, now here in this case, you will find it to be in the on state. Whereas for the next two diodes, let's check it from this side. So you have a positive polarity. So here the polarity will be my positive, and the same polarity, let's check it, it's connected to the P. So the diode D2 will be in the on state. So here my diode D2 will be in the on state, whereas positive is connected to the N side. So the diode D3 will be in the off state. Alright. So here the diode D2 and D4 and D2 is conducting. So if I now want to trace the current, what it will be is that it will start flowing from this side, A to till this wire. Then afterwards D2 gets conduct. So you will find the current flowing in this like this, and from point P, so this is in the reverse bias mode. That means I can take out this. So this is in my off state. So no current will be flowing in this. So the current takes the path from P to Q and it will start flowing across this load RL. Now if you compare the direction of the current, okay, this was the current direction for the positive half cycle. Now for the negative half cycle also, you will find a same direction of the current flowing in this load RL. And thereby from Q to again D4, there will be a current flowing and then in across this. So if I want to write it, okay, I can write it as B, it starts from B, okay, so it will start from B, then it goes to the diode D2, then it goes to the P, load RL, Q, diode D4, and then at the terminal A. So that's the direction. And if I want to plot the V out across this load RL, so what I can get it, again there is a current flowing in this load RL, so I'll get at the output I'll get the waveform. And if you see the current direction for the positive as well as the negative cycle is in the same direction, so that's why I'll get it above this in the positive scale. And who is responsible for this? So diode D2 and diode D4 are responsible for this rectification. Now again the positive cycle is going to come, and again you will find a rectified output that is again due to diode D1 and D3, and again once again it will be repeated for the negative half cycle for D2 and D4. Okay, so we have seen the rectification part of this input AC voltage that we are giving to this bridge network, and we are getting the pulsating DC again. So this is my again pulsating DC. So we are getting the same output waveform as what we got in the center tap full wave rectifier circuit. Now there are some advantages of this bridge wave rectifier over the center tap full wave rectifier circuit. So let's see the first PIV of this. So we checked the PIV in a center tap transformer, we got twice the VM. Now let's check the PIV for this bridge wave rectifier circuit. Now we are interested in overcoming the disadvantages that are offered by a center tap full wave rectifier. So let's see the PIV of this bridge wave rectifier. Now let me go with the positive cycle. So I'm having a positive signal at the secondary winding of this transformer. So what I know is that during this positive half cycle, D1 and diode D3 will get conduct. Alright. So now let's consider the ideal case for the diode. Now when I call it as an ideal diode, so I can neglect the 0.7 voltage inside it. So I know diode D1 and D3 is in on state. So these are in my on state. Okay. So what I can do is that I can replace this diode D1 by a single wire, because I know it's conducting, it's in the on state. So let me simplify the circuit. Okay, so the diode D1 I can show it with a line like this, that means it's in a closed circuit. Okay, same way I can also simplify this branch by just putting a wire, because I'm considering the diode to be an ideal diode. Make a note, I am considering this diode D1 and D3 to be the ideal diode. So I can neglect the 0.7 voltage, the barrier potential. So this is the case, I had diode D1 and D3 in this case. Now this diode D2 and D4 are in reversed bias mode. So the peak inverse voltage we are going to calculate for these two diodes, okay, because I know diode D2 and D4 are in reversed biased mode. Even this is reversed biased, so this is reverse biased. So that's a maximum voltage this diode can bear during the reverse bias. We are interested in calculating that. Now the same circuit, if you see this is a one wire. Okay, the same circuit I can draw it in a more simple way. Let's draw it. Okay, so here I'm having my transformer, okay, and let this be the secondary winding of my transformer. Now if you see this point, okay, this is just a wire, all right, so I can connect my P point somewhere here. So this is in a reversed bias mode. So let me draw the diode D2. So I can draw it something like this. Okay, so this is my diode D2, and this D2 is getting connected to the B terminal. So let this be my B terminal and let this be my A terminal. This A terminal, I can draw it here, and this A point is just a wire, so I can replace this A by P, so that P is connected to the diode, so this is that point. Alright, so I can consider this as my P point, okay, and this is the wire. Okay, I'm drawing the simplified diagram for this circuit diagram. So here, this is connected to this other end. Whereas a diode D4, again it's getting connected to the A terminal, and then it's connected to the Q terminal. Whereas from Q to this part, it's just a line or else just a wire. So I can say this B is coming somewhere here. Let this be B here. Okay, and this is just a wire. So I can connect this diode D4 to the terminal A and directly to the point B. So what I can do is I can just connect this diode. This is my diode D4, and I can connect it directly to this terminal B. So this is my terminal B. Okay, and what about this load RL? RL, again, it's just a point P and A, it's the same point. So I can show it between this. So this is my load RL. So this is my load RL, whereas this is my diode D4. So this is a simplified circuit diagram, I can say. Now if you see this, the diode, the load RL and the diode D4, this all are in parallel. So this is my AC signal that I'm giving. This is the secondary winding. Across the secondary winding, you see that this diode D2 is connected in parallel to the secondary winding. Same for the load RL and the same for the diode D4. Now, when this is going to be in a reversed bias, positive and negative, okay, for the positive and negative half cycle, D1, D3 is an on state, D2 is in a reversed bias mode. So now if you try to calculate this is the VM that is coming at the secondary winding. Now this diode D2 and D4, I said, design a reversed biased. And now if you try to calculate the voltage, that this diode has to bear when it's in a reverse bias mode is of VM voltage. So here the peak inverse PIV is equal to just the VM. So the diode which you're going to pick up, okay, it should be of the PIV rating of VM. That is that you're going to work, that this VM is the voltage that will be available at the secondary winding, or else that is the voltage you are going to work with. So you see that the diode which you are picking up is of the PIV rating of the VM volt. Now if you compare this PIV rating with the center tap, the PIV rating, the center tap is twice the VM. The PIV rating in the center tap is twice the VM. Whereas here in this case, for the full wave bridge rectifier, we are getting it just the half of this, what we got in the center tap. So the PIV rating has been reduced by the half factor, you can say. So the cost of this diode is less, so thereby you will reduce the cost of this entire setup. Now one more disadvantage is that, okay, so the output, if you see the output now here in this case, the output you are going to get is the same that what we have given at the input, that is across the secondary winding. In the case of a center tap transformer, the secondary winding used to distribute the voltage, that is, it used to divide it into two sections, so there used to be a decrease in the DC output. Now we have overcome that problem, okay, just by connecting a normal transformer to this bridge network. Alright, now about the disadvantage. The disadvantage is that we are going to make a use of 4 diodes. Okay, one diode is over here. We are going to make a use of 4 diodes. So that's the disadvantage. So the other disadvantage is that the internal resistance, when you consider the real diode, okay, so each diode will have some internal resistance of a RF. Okay, so this is the internal resistance for each diode. Now we know that the output what you are going to get is just because of the 2 diodes. For the first positive half cycle, the 2 diodes gets conduct. For the negative half cycle, more 2 diode get conducts. So the current that is passing through this load RL, okay, will also pass through the diode D1, and because of the internal resistance of this diode D1, there will be a twice voltage drop, okay, in this circuit, okay, if you compare with the center tap. In a center tap, we used to use a single diode for the positive half cycle, so only RF was there. Now here in this case, 2 diodes are conducting D1 and D3, so those are in a series. So D1 and D3 are in series, D1 plus D3 are in series, so this internal resistance will get added, so it will be twice the RF. So the voltage drop across this diode D1 and D3, okay, will be twice the RF. So that's the disadvantage when you compare this bridge wave rectifier with the full wave rectifier circuit. Now let's try to calculate the efficiency of a full wave rectifier circuit. Now the efficiency tells us about how much of the input AC power that has been converted into a useful DC output power. Or else, in other words, I can write the same thing as efficiency is just the ratio of the DC output power divided by the input AC power. And if I want to write the same power, I can write it in terms of I square into R. So power at the DC, we measure it in terms of a DC, I square DC into the load RL. Yes, we are measuring the output across the load RL divided by the power at the AC, that is going to be I square into the RMS into RF plus RL. So that is the internal resistance of the diode into the RL. So we know that in the positive half cycle, the diode D1 and D3 will get conduct. So each of this diode has got some internal resistance. So this is the drop across this internal resistance of the diode plus the output load. Okay. So now if you want this efficiency to be calculated in terms of percentage, what we do require is this IDC and the IRMS in terms of a maximum value. So let's try to calculate this IDC and the IRMS first, and then let's substitute back the same expression into this efficiency, and let's try to get the efficiency in terms of a percentage. Now let's try to calculate the IDC or else the average value. Okay, so we are interested in IDC or the I average value. So let me take the output waveform. Okay, so this is my output waveform. So let me go with the current I and let this be 0. So this is my 2 pi, pi and 2 pi. Okay, so here this is my pi and let this be my 2 pi. So at the output what I am getting is this full wave been getting rectified, right? So 0 to 2 pi. Now to calculate this IDC, what we have is IDC or else the I average area of one cycle of curve divided by its base. Yes, so here I am having IDC, so let me calculate IDC will be equal to area of the one cycle of the curve will be from 0 to 2 pi. Yes, this is the signal we are supplying from 0 to 2 pi, and entire both the positive as well as the negative half cycle is been getting rectified. So I need to go with the 0 to 2 pi, whereas in the case of the half wave rectifier we took it from 0 to pi because only the half wave was rectified in that case. Now here we need to work it in both the region, so 0 to 2 pi into I d theta upon the base, that is your 2 pi. Alright, so here I know I is equal to, I know that I is equal to Im sin theta. So if I substitute this in this equation, what I'll get is my IDC will be equal to 0 to 2 pi. Okay, it will be Im sin theta d theta divided by 2 pi. Now the same expression, what I can rewrite it as IDC is equal to, okay, this integration what you see 0 to 2 pi, Okay, it's the same thing, 0 to pi and again pi to 2 pi. It's the same waveform what you see. So what I can simply write it as that it's a twice and my limits this time will change from 0 to pi. Okay, so here let me put it as 0 to pi, and let me take this Im constant out. So here it will be twice the Im, also the constant in the denominator 2t pi. So only thing will be left in here, integration part, is sine theta d theta. Alright, so here 2 gets cancelled, 2 and 2 will get cancelled. So what I am left out with is Im by pi. So here it's my IDC is equal to Im by pi. Integration of sine theta will give me a minus cos theta, and this is 0 to pi. So let me take out this minus sign out. So here I'll get Im by pi, and then when I substitute this cos theta, cos of pi minus cos of 0. So here I'll get it as minus Im by pi. Cos of pi is your minus 1. Again cos of 0 will give me 1. Upper limit minus lower limit. Alright. So here you will be getting minus Im by pi. And minus 1 into minus 1 will give me a minus 2. And the final answer, what I'll get it as, minus into minus will be plus. So what I'll get is as 2 Im by pi. So that's my IDC, or else the I average value. Okay, so I have got the IDC value in terms of a maximum current. So let me put it over here. So I'm getting IDC is equal to twice the Im by pi. So that's the first equation what I have calculated. Now the next thing what we want is the IRMS. Okay, so let's calculate the IRMS value. Now to calculate the IRMS value, okay, we have IRMS, that's a root mean square. IRMS is equal to square root of the area of one cycle of curve, the whole square divided by the base. Okay, now again let's go with the same. We are having a input signal, so this is my signals, 0 to pi to 2 pi. Okay, and this is my current. Alright, so IRMS, I am getting it as a IRMS is equal to square root of, let me write it as 0 to 2 pi. Again I know it's I d theta, so here let me take it directly. So what I'll get is, as this is my square root, so what I'll get is Im square sine square theta into the d theta the whole square divided by its base, that is my 2 pi. Alright, so this is the expression. Now what I can do is that I can take the constant term out. So what it will look like is this, let me take it the bigger bracket. So here 0 to 2 pi, so 0 to 2 pi, 0 to 2 pi, this 2 pi will be coming out. Alright, this Im square is again, it will be coming out, and what I can do is 0 to 2 pi, that's 0 to 2 pi, and it's again the same thing is happening. So let me change the limit from 2 pi, let me write it as pi, and when I make a change in the limit, so I have to put it twice, because the wave is been getting rectified for both the cycles, so it will be 2. Then again inside this bracket what I'm having, it's a sine square theta into d theta, and then the overall square root, that's a half. This is entire thing, so this is, let me put it as a under square root. Okay, so here the 2 and 2 will get cancelled, so what I am left out with is the square root of Im square divided by pi. Integration of 0 to pi is what I can just write it as 0 to pi sine square theta can be written as 1 minus cos 2 theta divided by 2, alright, into d theta and the overall square root. This is the formula I have substituted for sine square theta. Okay, now let's start the integration. So here I have IRMS is equal to, that's the Im square, so this is everything inside the square root, Im square divided by pi, Now 0 to pi, let's start the integration. 0 to pi for 1 d theta, okay, minus integration of 0 to pi for your cos 2 theta, cos 2 theta, and this 2 is a common for both 1 as well as a cos 2 theta. So what I'll do is that I'll be taking the 2 out, okay. So let's take the 2 out. So here it will be a twice, and that's a pi of the previous value, okay. So I'm taking that 2 out. Now here this everything is inside this square root, okay, and I have to put it as d theta over there, cos 2 theta d theta, and this thing will be again in the bracket. Yes. So now start the integration. So here is equal to Im square divided by 2 pi. Integration of 1 will give me a theta value, okay. So this is my theta, and that is coming from 0 to pi, minus integration of cos 2 theta is what? Sin 2 theta divided by 2. So this is the integration for cos theta, again 0 to pi, and then we have a bracket, and then the overall bracket, that's the square root sign. Now let's substitute these upper limits and the lower limits. So what I'll get it as Im square divided by 2 pi, cos of, so the cos of what? Cos of pi, theta will be pi minus 0. Again, when you substitute sine of 2 theta as a pi, sine of anything that's it's a 2, and it will be multiplied by the pi, so that will give me a 0 quantity. So that will give me, so let me write this as a sine of 2 pi divided by 2 and minus sine of 0, okay. Yes, and this is my square root. Yeah, so here what I'll get it as the Im square, the IRMS is equal to Im square divided by 2 pi into bracket, you are having a pi value over here, minus 0, sine of 2 pi will give me a 0 value, okay. So this is going to be a 0 minus 0 minus sine of 0 is 0, so that will be a square root. So what final answer, what I'll get it as IRMS is equal to Im square, okay, into this pi, okay. Here I think I have to put a square root for this, okay. So Im square into pi, that's pi, divided by 2 pi, and then the square root of this. And when I take a square root for this, what I'll get it as IRMS is equal to, okay. So this Im, what I'll get is the Im, it's a square, so Im, pi and pi will get cancelled, so upon divided by square root of 2. So that's the value for IRMS in terms of the maximum current. So let me rewrite it over here. So I'm having the IRMS value that is equal to Im upon square root of 2. So we have derived the two equations. One is the IDC and the IRMS for the entire full wave, that is from 0 to 2 pi for a full wave rectifier. Now we have to substitute this IDC and IRMS in the efficiency equation and then calculate the efficiency of a full wave rectifier circuit. Now I have the values for IDC and the IRMS in terms of Im. That's the maximum value of the current. Now let me substitute both the equations in this efficiency equation. Now when I substitute it in the efficiency, what I'll get is as twice the Im by pi, IDC, so that is twice the Im by pi, okay, the whole square into the load resistance RL, divided by IRMS square, so that will be my Im by square root of 2 the whole square into the internal resistance plus the load resistance RL. Or else the same thing, okay, I can rewrite it as efficiency is equal to twice the Im by pi the whole square into, I take this upside up, so what will happen is I'll get it as a square root upon the Im the whole square. Yes, into, I can write it as a RL divided by, okay, RF plus RL. Yes, so this is the case. Now Im and Im gets cancelled out over here. So Im and Im will get cancelled out. So what I know is it's a 2 the whole square. So what I'll get as 2 the whole square, I'll get it as a 4 divided by pi the whole square. Pi value is 3.14, and if I take the whole square of that, 9.85 some value, into square root of 2, it's give me a 2. Okay, so that is multiplied here, and again I'll get RL upon RF plus RL. Yes, so 4 into 2, again I'll get it as a 8. So what answer I'll get it as a 8. 8 divided by 9.85 into the load RL divided by RF plus RL. Yes, and this is 9.85 is very close to approximately 10, and if I consider this approximately to 10, okay, just for the calculation, and when you divide 8 by 10, what I'll get is a 0.8. Okay, so here it comes to be, when you divide it by actual number 9.85, it will something 80.15, okay, into RL divided by RF plus RL. Okay, so this is the case. Now the same expression, okay, I can rewrite it in something like this. I can take this RL in a denominator. So the efficiency will be equal to 0.81, I think it's a 2, okay, into RF plus RL. I take it in the denominator of this, so that is RL. Once again, I can write the same expression as, I can rewrite it as 0.812, okay, 0.182. So I can rewrite this as a 1 plus, okay, into RF upon RL. Yes, if I just multiply it, I'll get the same exact equation. So this is my efficiency. So this is my final equation for the efficiency. So let me put it in the box. So this is the equation. Now if you look at this efficiency equation, again we have got the same as like of the half wave, but there's a change in the numerator value. Yes, in the half wave we got it as a 0.41. Now here it's a 812, and again if you just see this RF upon RL, if RF is negligible, if RF is very very small than RL, then what I can say is that, okay, this will be a very small number, and we will get a maximum efficiency when the RF is very very small if you compare with this load RL. So the efficiency is going to be a maximum when this is the condition, and what I'll get is 81.2% in this case. Okay, when you just, it will be 0.812 and the multiplier of 100 will give me a 81.2%. Now this is the maximum efficiency of a full wave rectifier, and if you compare this efficiency with the half wave rectifier, is just the double, or in the case of the half wave, right? In the case of the half wave, now if you compare this efficiency with the half wave rectifier circuit, is just the double. Yes, in the case of the half wave rectifier we got something 40%. Now here it's 81%. So we have improved the efficiency, okay, of a rectification with the help of a bridge rectifier circuit. Now let's see the output frequency, okay, for a full wave bridge rectifier. So we have our output frequency. Let's try to comment on the output frequency. Now what I can say is that the F out, okay, F out is equal to twice the F in. Okay, so that is the output frequency is doubled times the input frequency. Now if you see this region from 0 to 2 pi, okay, that's the AC input signal. 0 to 2 pi, it takes the positive cycle only one times. Whereas if you see the output waveforms, that is from 0 to 2 pi, you will find that the positive cycle is repeated twice. Okay, so what I can say is that the output frequency has got doubled when you look at the output of this rectifier. Okay, so what is happening is that the negative signals, okay, of the input supply is been getting converted into the positive half cycle. So thereby what I can say is that the F out will be equal to twice the F in. Now the next thing is about the pulsating DC. the outputs that you are getting are in the form of a pulsating DC, and pulsating DC means, okay, it's the addition of the AC plus the DC component. Yes. Now one may wonder, how come this can have a AC components? Because you don't see any change in the polarity, or else you don't see any change in the direction of this current. Yes. So how come it can be AC plus the DC? Yes. So to understand this, let's try to take a very small example for this to understand this pulsating DC. So here what I'll do is that I'll be taking let me take this is my waveform. So let me take it, this is your 32 volts. So let me take it as 32 volts. So this is my V in. Okay. So this is a sum signal, okay, that I'm having. So this is my pure DC. I can say it's my pure DC. Now let's take the AC signals. Okay. So here I'll be having my AC signals, and let this be my, yes. Okay. So here let us start from this part. Okay. So let me draw my AC signals like this. Okay. So the maximum, this Vm, let be of 18 volts. Okay. So this is again the voltage, and this point let it be of minus 32 volts. Okay. So this is my AC signals. The magnitude for both the polarity, let's not take it the same. Okay. So this is having 18 volts, the maximum Vm, whereas this it's a minus 32 volt. Now when I be superimposing them, okay, that is I'm adding this pure DC and this AC component. So this is my AC components, okay, and this is my DC components. So when I'll be superimposing this DC on the ACs, okay, let's try to get the one more output waveform. So that is I'm trying to add this DC plus AC. So I'll be adding this DC plus AC. So what output waveform what I'll get is let me draw this. Okay. So this is my V in again. Okay. So I'm superimposing this. So let me show it as V out. Okay. And this is my V in. So here if you see this, so this is my origin 0. Okay. Even this is my 0. Now when I add this DC plus AC, so DC voltage right from the 0, it is starting at the 32 volts. Whereas here for the AC, when you see, it's minus 32 volts. Now when I'll add this 32 volts minus 32 volts will give me a 0, correct? So here, so this is my 0, so I have to start it from this point. All right. And now then if you see this point, okay, let's take this point on this axis. So this is my 0. And when you add this, again, this is a constant supply. So this will be always a 32. So 32 plus 0 volt will shift these AC signals on the positive side. So 32 plus 0, so that will give me a 32. Yes. So what I'll get is this is the waveform. Okay. So this is the 32. So let this be my 32. Okay. And let this be my 50 over here. All right. So this point I'm getting at the output when I superimpose, it's my 32. Now let's focus on this point, the maximum of this AC signals. So that is of 18 volts. Now when I add 32 volts and 18 volts, so what I'll get is a 50 volts. So that will be touching at this 50. Are you getting? Again, coming back, same way you can also plot it for this point on the curves. Okay, so let me choose this as a point. So again 32 plus 0 will get this back to this 32. Even if here suppose it's something 10 volts. Okay, in that case 10 volts for 32 will give me a 42. So this 42 will be somewhere here. Like that you can get fit for all the points on this curve. So what you will find is that once again there will be a change in the polarities. Okay, this time you see if you see this AC plus DC component, so I can call this as my pulsating DC. So this is my pulsating DC. Are you getting? So here if you see this, there is no change in the polarity. The current direction is only in the one way. Okay, no change in the current direction. So this is called my pulsating DC. Okay, so which is having the combination of both AC as well as a DC component. So this is how you can think it of. The same thing is applicable for this pulsating DC also. Okay, so I hope you got the idea about what the pulsating DCs are. Now we know what are pulsating DC from this example. Okay, now let's try to calculate the ripple factor for this full wave rectified output waveforms. Now this ripple factor measures the percentage of AC component that is present in this rectified output waveform. And if I want to calculate the ripple factor, what I can do is that, we have a ripple factor formula. So ripple factor, so that is nothing but square root of I square RMS divided by I square DC minus 1. And the derivation of this ripple factor formula I have already done in the half wave rectifier class. So please refer to the class on half wave rectifier to understand this formula. So I'm directly using it. So what I am having is IRMS and IDC value. So I can substitute it. So ripple factor, what I'll get it is square root of I square RMS is Im by square root of 2, okay, the whole square divided by the I square DC, that is twice Im by pi, okay, and that's the whole square minus 1. Okay, so this is minus 1. So here again Im and Im will get cancelled. Im and Im will get cancelled. So what I can rewrite the same expression as square root of, so this will become 1 upon 2. Okay, square root of 2 will give me 2. This goes up. So what I'll get is pi upon 2 2's, yes, 2 into square minus 1. And then what I can have is pi square is what? It's a 3.14 the whole square. That is, so pi the whole square is nothing but 9.85. 9.85 divided by 4. So here I can write it as, this is 9.85. And 2 2's are 4, and 4 into 2, that will give me 8 and minus 1. So 9.85 divided by 8 will give me a close value to 1.23. So the ripple factor, what I can write it as 1.23 minus 1, and this will give me square root of 0.23, and the final answer that you will get is the ripple factor will be somewhere 0.23. It will be square root of 0.48. Okay, so this is the ripple factor value, 0.48. Now if you compare this ripple factor, okay, with the half wave rectifier circuit, okay, the ripple factor in the half wave rectifier circuit, so for the half wave rectifier circuit, the ripple factor was 1.21. So this was for the half wave, whereas in this full wave we have reduced this number from 1.21 till the 0.48. Now what it tells us is that the DC component that will be present in this rectified output waveform will be in a large number if you compare this with the half wave rectifier. Okay, so the DC component is in a maximum number. All right, and also we can say that the pulsation, what you will see in the rectified output, okay, in the case of a full wave rectifier will be less if you compare again with the half wave rectifier. So these are the reasons, okay, one is that we have rectified the entire cycle of the input signal, okay, and the second thing, we have reduced the ripples in this. So this is why these full wave rectifiers are being widely used in converting the AC signals into an DC signals. So now let's try to have one small comparison chart of all these three different types of rectifier that we studied, and then we shall close with the class. Now let's quickly do the comparison for the half wave, center tap and the bridge rectifier circuit. So in terms of number of diodes, transformer required, maximum efficiency, ripple factor, output frequency, and the PIV rating. Now let's start with the half wave rectifier. In the half wave rectifier, the number of diodes required is the 1 is enough, and in the center tap, we require the number of diodes, okay, so is 1, The transformer necessary? No, not necessary. Okay, so the maximum efficiency in this case is of 40%. The ripple factors, that is in terms of 1.21. The output frequency is just as of the F in, you can say, and the PYV rating of a diode is the VM, okay, as of the input supply. Now for the center tapping, we require a number of diodes is increases by 1, so we require 2 diodes. Now is transformer necessary in this case? Yes, we do require a transformer, and that too a center tap transformer, so that both the diodes are getting conducted during the negative half cycle also. So the maximum efficiency here in this case, it's 81.2%, I can say. The ripple factor just now we have done, so it's 0.48 is a ripple factor. The output frequency will be my F out will be equal to twice the F in, and the peak inverse, it's twice the VM. Yes. So again, for the bridge type, we require 4 diodes. Okay. So we need 4 diodes. Do you require a transformer? Is it necessary? No, not necessary. The maximum efficiency, again, it's the same as of center tap, 81.2%. Again, the ripple factor will be 0.48, and the F out will be equal to twice the F in. Okay, and the PIV in this case will be just the VM. Now, what is this transformer necessary? Okay, in the half wave, we don't require a transformer. It's not a necessary condition. We just put a normal transformer so that the risk of getting a shock is being reduced. Okay, that's the advantage of putting a transformer. Actually, we don't require a transformer, whereas in the case of center tap, it becomes compulsory because we want both the diodes, okay, to be rectified for at least each half cycle. So it becomes compulsory in this case. And for the bridge wave, again, we don't require, because we are just using a normal transformer, no problem with that. Now the maximum efficiency, the center tape as well as the bridge rectifier gives the same efficiency. Okay, so both are okay with that. Even for the ripple factors, you will get the same. But when you look at the advantage of the bridge wave rectifier, you will find that you don't require a transformer in this case. Okay, and the PIV rating. That will reduce the cost of your rectifier circuit, because the diodes with the maximum PIV rating will cost you very large. Okay, and so the cost of the rectifier circuit will get increased. So here this is the better, I can say, the bridge type. Although there are some disadvantages because we are making the use of the 4 diodes in this case, but if you see the overall features of this bridge rectifier, that is, center tap is not required, again the PIV rating. Okay, so what I can say is that the bridge type of wave rectifier is having a advantage. Okay, and these are widely used in rectification purposes, that is for converting ACs to the DC. So this is all about from the rectifier circuits. Thank you very much.